Lila stood on the rooftop balcony, the cool night air brushing against her skin as the city sprawled endlessly below. Lights flickered like distant stars, and the hum of traffic far below mingled with the soft strains of the party behind her. She held a glass of champagne loosely in one hand, her other hand twisting the stem nervously. The laughter and chatter of the guests felt distant, almost muffled, as though she were in her own little world. A gust of wind lifted a strand of her hair, and she tucked it behind her ear, shivering slightly. That's when she felt someone's presence behind her. "Enjoying the view?" a deep, smooth voice asked. Lila turned sharply, nearly dropping her glass. A man stood there, leaning casually against the railing, the city lights reflecting in his dark eyes. There was something magnetic about him, an aura that made her stomach flip. His tailored suit suggested wealth, power, and confidence, but his smile was warm, teasing, dangerously inviting. She opened her mouth to speak and, without thinking, let the words escape, "Kiss me like you mean it." Her cheeks burned as she immediately wished she could take it back, expecting him to laugh or walk away. Instead, he tilted his head, a slow, mischievous smile curling at the corner of his lips. He stepped closer, the air between them charged with electricity. Her heart raced as he leaned in, brushing his lips against hers, just enough to make her breath hitch. The kiss was brief, teasing, yet it left a heat lingering across her skin, a shiver running through her spine. Her mind reeled, caught between exhilaration and embarrassment, as she realized she didn't even know this man. When he pulled back, his gaze locked on hers, a spark of something unspoken passing between them. "I think you mean it," he murmured, his voice low and smooth, sending a shiver down her spine. Lila could only nod, her thoughts a tangled mess. The city lights sparkled beneath them, the night stretching ahead like a promise of danger, desire, and secrets yet to be revealed. She had no idea that the man she had just kissed would soon become the most important, and complicated, part of her life. The next morning, Lila walked into Aurum Enterprises with a sense of cautious optimism. Her heels clicked against the polished marble floor, echoing through the vast lobby. The smell of fresh coffee and the hum of computers greeted her, but her mind was elsewhere, replaying the kiss from last night, the teasing spark in his eyes, the warmth of his lips. She tried to push the memory aside, focusing on the task at hand. Today was her first day at the new company, and she needed to make a strong impression. Taking a deep breath, she made her way to the elevator, trying to steady her racing heart. The doors opened on the top floor, revealing a sleek, modern office space. Glass walls, gleaming desks, and the quiet buzz of productivity surrounded her. But then, her world tilted. He was there, sitting behind a massive mahogany desk, reviewing documents, every movement precise and commanding. His presence filled the room like a gravitational pull, and for a moment, Lila froze, caught between awe and panic. This was the man from the rooftop, the one who had kissed her. His eyes lifted, and recognition flashed across his face. He smiled slightly, the same teasing warmth from the night before, but now tempered with authority. "Good morning, Ms. Lila," he said, his voice calm, smooth, and measured. "Welcome to Aurum Enterprises." Her stomach dropped, her heartbeat thudded in her ears. This was no longer a fleeting rooftop encounter, it was reality. The man she had shared a bold, impulsive kiss with was now her boss. A billionaire, a CEO, and the most powerful person in the company. Lila's mind raced, trying to maintain composure. She forced a polite smile. "Good morning, sir," she said, hoping her voice didn't betray the whirlwind of emotions inside her. He nodded, leaning back in his chair with an effortless air of confidence. "I've heard good things about you," he continued, his eyes scanning her briefly before returning to his documents. "I expect great things here. I'm looking forward to working with you." Lila nodded again, swallowing hard. She had no idea how she would navigate the intense attraction, the electric tension, and the high-stakes professional environment she had just stepped into. The kiss that had seemed like a harmless thrill now carried the weight of consequence, and she could feel that her life was about to change forever. Lila tried to focus on her work, but the office seemed to conspire against her. Every time she glanced up from her desk, there he was, walking past with an effortless stride, his presence commanding the room even when he said nothing. The memory of his lips on hers still lingered, and she found herself biting her lower lip to suppress a sigh. During a mid-morning meeting, he entered the conference room, and the air seemed to shift immediately. Colleagues murmured greetings, but Lila could barely hear them. Her gaze locked with his across the room, and for a moment, the bustling office faded away. The teasing smirk from the rooftop seemed to flicker across his face, and her stomach twisted with a mix of excitement and apprehension. As he spoke, presenting charts and figures with precision, she noticed the subtle ways he dominated the room, not with arrogance but with quiet confidence. His dark eyes occasionally flicked to her, and each glance sent a jolt of electricity through her. She reminded herself, this was her boss. Her professional life was at stake. Yet, the pull between them was undeniable, intoxicating. After the meeting, the office emptied slowly, leaving a hushed quiet in its wake. She returned to her desk, trying to concentrate, but a shadow fell across her workspace. He was there, leaning casually, hands in his pockets, a faint smile tugging at his lips. About last night, he began, his voice low and smooth, the kind that made her pulse race. Lila's cheeks warmed. I didn't mean for it to, she stammered, struggling to find the right words. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. Neither did I, he admitted, his tone teasing but sincere. He took a small step closer, the air between them charged. But some things are worth the risk. Her breath caught. She wanted to look away, to regain composure, but her eyes remained locked on his. The memory of his lips, the fleeting heat of that rooftop moment, pressed against her thoughts. She realized the line between professional and personal had already blurred, and that she might be dangerously close to crossing it entirely. For the first time, Lila understood that working for him would not just challenge her career, it would test her heart, her desires, and every boundary she thought she had. And deep down, she wondered if she even wanted to resist. By evening, the office had emptied, leaving only the soft hum of computers and the faint glow of city lights streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Lila's fingers trembled slightly as she organized papers at her desk, trying to convince herself that nothing unusual was happening. Yet, the memory of his gaze, his teasing smile, and the kiss from the rooftop refused to leave her mind. She heard the soft click of the door and looked up. He was there, leaning against the doorway, casual but impossibly magnetic. The sight of him made her chest tighten. His dark eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, the world outside the office, the deadlines, the responsibilities, the hierarchy, simply ceased to exist. You said it, he murmured, stepping closer. His voice was low, a dangerous mix of charm and authority. Kiss me like you mean it. I intend to keep my promise. Lila's breath hitched. She wanted to resist, to remind herself of boundaries, but the pull was too strong. She could feel the heat of his presence radiating toward her, every step he took magnifying the tension in the room. He reached her desk and leaned casually against it, reducing the space between them to mere inches. The city lights reflected in his eyes, and for a moment, Lila thought she might melt under his gaze. You're playing with fire, Lila, he said softly, his thumb brushing against her hand. I can't help it, she whispered, her voice trembling, betraying the whirlwind of desire and fear inside her. Then he closed the distance completely. His lips met hers in a kiss that was no longer teasing or tentative. It was deep, deliberate, and consuming, sending shivers down her spine. Every hesitation, every unspoken tension, seemed to pour into that kiss. She wrapped her arms around him instinctively, giving in to the irresistible pull between them. When they finally pulled apart, their foreheads resting together, the world outside their bubble seemed impossibly far away. The city lights twinkled below them, but nothing could compare to the fire that burned in the room, and in their hearts. Lila realized, with a mixture of thrill and apprehension, that she had stepped into a world where passion and ambition collided. There would be challenges, there would be risks, but in that moment, none of that mattered. She was caught, irrevocably, in the orbit of a man who was no longer just a stranger, or just a boss. He was everything she hadn't known she was waiting for.